Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Splattycast. I am one of your co-hosts, Chris. I've got my other two co-hosts here, Nabil and James. How you guys doing?
What up? A little hungover, but good.
Doing good.
James, are you excited to be officially a co-host now?
Yeah, excited to officially be part of the team. It's been a long season and a half of interning, I guess, on the show. Excited to be a full-time co-host. Chris.
Well, thank you, Nabil, for lending your Zoom capabilities to the team and for making everybody a co-host. Nabil, I feel like what are your thoughts? Let's jump into it.
Jump into the Niners. Is that what we're doing?
Christian McCaffrey, the run CMC era has begun in Santa Clara. What are you thinking?
I think I can't remember who said it. It might have been Spencer or maybe it was Kevin or something. Talking about I wish it was we solidify the line or something like that. Like ultimately, I feel like that would have been a better option. But look, I've been asking for since we really started recording these, get me a big name guy in free agency. And they went out and traded. I think it's a little weird, but hell yeah, bring him back home to the Bay Area. He was a Stanford alum. He's electrifying. I pretty much should just get rid of Elijah Mitchell on my IR at this point because why else would we need anyone else? And this should be great. I think it helps alleviate some of the stress on the guy who can't handle it, Jimmy Johnson. No, Jimmy Garoppolo. And so good. He can just dump it off. When in doubt, look for the short pass. And he's already been doing that. Again, just to go back to where I think it's confusing, Wilson has been great. It seems like we've always been able to do it. So why make that specific player move? But we got him. This is freaking legit, dude. Let's get some dubs.
I'm going to ignore the Jimmy Garoppolo hate. James, what was your gut reaction?
Yeah, I think I initially was just what? The Niners never go for anytime there's a rumor for some big name, I'm we're not going to get him. We play it pretty conservative and it's probably smarter to not. And then when it happened, I was kind of that same, so fun, but O-line help would have been good. The secondary's a little beat up, but it's going to be so fun to watch him. I'm excited. I think it was a good move. We waste second and third round picks on running backs every year anyway. So now instead of that, we have Christian McCaffrey and we can run 2 running back sets with use check and it's going to be crazy. And
yeah,
I'm not going to be pessimistic about it. I'm just so stoked and I'm so excited for how many picks I'm going to get for him. Send me your offers. I'm finally available today to really talk trades. Change my team name to Ready to Christian Mingle. Let's do this thing.
Love it.
Wait, did you actually do that? That is hilarious.
James, you continue to crush it with the team names.
It's all I'm doing well this whole season.
I want to address the offensive line concern because I think it's important to address the concern, which is, yeah, I also want the 49ers to improve the offensive line. But James, I think you said it the best. I'm excited about this still.
Yeah.
Still good. Yes, and right.
Yeah,
that's still something that we should improve. But also we just have potentially now the most electrifying running back in the league. It's there's nothing to be upset about. This is all good news. We got better in the trade, and yeah, those draft picks, it doesn't matter. We're trying to win now. We have players hopefully McCaffrey is a guy who wants to re-sign with us when his contract's up. He had a no trade clause, so that means he
wanted to come here.
To come here. This is all good news. This is there's nothing bad about this. Maybe an underrated part about signing McCaffrey is he's not going to go anywhere else. We already had to beat him once in Carolina. Nope. So he's not on the Rams. He's not going to join Philly or Dallas or one of the other top teams in the NFC.
Right.
He is like, so a crazy idea that I had like a week ago. I was like, oh, I can't wait for to drop this spicy hot take on the pod. Like, the 49ers should try to sign Odell Beckham Jr. simply for the reason that no one else can get him. Like, why not? And with Odell, you don't have to give up any draft picks. Like, he'd be a 1-year type of sign. Like, this is that and more, because McCaffrey is healthy and playing football at a high level on what was a bad team, and now what's on hopefully a great team.
Yeah, and I think what's actually really cool about it in general about this move is, and you were kind of saying, is like let's hope we can work something where we sign him long term, right? Because ultimately, what's great is, yes, we still have Jimmy G, but he did rework his contract. It's great, but like moving forward, when Trey Lance comes back, we have a rookie deal. So we have money to spend. We don't have to worry about paying this quarterback like, well, I don't even know what salaries are now, are like in the 40 and 50 millions, right? So it's like, we're like totally fine chilling with a low budget, and we could pay him like a respectable running back salary and have like ideally someone who isn't actually that injury prone, right? He's just actually got unlucky maybe over the last like 2 years or 2 seasons, but ultimately he'll come in as a healthy back and like doesn't have that history, and we can just guarantee that he's good. It's not like Trey Sermon, what if? It's not, Mozart like gets hurt all the time, and or like Elijah Mitchell, like we don't have to worry about his injury. He could come in as a second back and still be electric. Like, hell yeah, this is going to be awesome. Like I think I'm in the same boat with all of you, staying optimistic. Who cares about the quarterback situation? He could just dump it, hopefully 5 yards without throwing it to the hands of a defender, and like we can win some games.
And he's like quarterback proof. Like, he's going to help Jimmy so much to have like a bailout option with insane hands to like, when Jimmy can't get out of the pocket, he's got someone to dump it to. And then when Trey comes back, Trey doesn't have to run as much because you have a top 3 running back in the league, and Trey's safer.
Like, Shanahan can go creative now. This is wild, right? We get Trey Lance back. Now I'm like, you're seeing me skyrocket. My optimism is going through the roof as we're going. But like Trey Lance, running back / quarterback, right? Like the ability to run. Debo, wide receiver / running back, and then Christian McCaffrey, who's a running back / wide receiver. Like the ability,
running back / tight end.
Yeah, it's like we have so many weapons. If Shanahan cannot put together an offense that is as competitive as the Chiefs, as creative as the Chiefs, then Shanahan's not a good coach, right? Because I think like we've all maybe had that thought, like, maybe Shanahan's not that good, right? But like ultimately, like he has the weapons. You're right. Like this ultimately makes the life so easy for our quarterback. It's going to be great to watch. And I mean, he might get some touches even this Sunday. So
they've got to manufacture him a 2-yard goal line run just to get the crowd pumped.
Yeah. And you were saying that this minimizes the hits on Trey Lance if he chooses to run, but like also minimizes the hits on Debo, right? Like we're getting a little too dependent on putting our best receiver out there to take hits.
And it limits the hits on Christian McCaffrey. Like he's on a team that has more weapons than Robbie Anderson, and then DJ Moore's good, but like just George Kittle takes less hits. It's I'm just pumped. Like I don't want to be negative about it.
So looking back at McCaffrey's career, he was as a sophomore, he was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy and won AP Player of the Year. He'd lost the Heisman Trophy to Derrick Henry.
Damn.
Like that's who he's competing with. Then he comes into the NFL and is just establishes himself as the best running back in the league and is a consensus #1 fantasy pick for 2 years in a row. And the only reason he wasn't this year is because of recent injury history. And like Nabil said, it's not that he has a long history of it. It's just the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
He's the best. It's not it. All the things that you guys are saying are accurate. That he's going to take hits away, but also he's a really fucking good football player.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's really fucking good. And there's no other way to, like, there's a lot of different ways to look at this, and all of them are great. Like, every single way that you can slice this, like, this is an absolute win. Like, this is an absolute win. Full stop. And how can you not be excited as a Niners fan? This is amazing.
You know, this is usually fun for people listening because it's usually me and you bickering back and forth. And for once, we're not, man. We're all optimistic. So let's get to fantasy where we maybe have a better chance of going back and forth.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Well, it's the trade season is upon us, and James and I are in a similar boat where it's time. It's time to say
It's time.
goodbye to our hopes and dreams for this season.
I'm so glad I'm keeping this podcast afloat with some credibility and being somewhat decent.
Yeah, yikes.
Yeah, well, my back started hurting by the end of last year from you guys. Me carrying all this. So.
Fighting to get into playoffs last year.
Thanks for letting me be a co-host, guys. I've been really
Gosh. Well, yeah, let's take, sorry to do this to you, James, but let's take a peek. Let's take a peek.
Well,
So,
before we dive in, can we actually just for 2 seconds, only because we're looking at the divisions, right? Did you ever think that the grad would look like Hunter in first, 5-1 on a 5-game winning streak, and James in last in his division at 1-5? And just in last in the league. Like, I would have never thought, Hunter would have never thought that. That's not even a stab at Hunter. Like, Hunter went into the season thinking it was just a dud season, and he's 5 wins. It's wild. Sorry.
I just remember the big teams. Like, it's no surprise Devin's doing great. His team is awesome.
yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, my roster looks pretty damn good. Like, I'm very happy with my draft. I remember us all thinking Rocha had a super deep, good team.
Yeah.
And Hunter had like no top picks, was drafting like a majority of his team very late. And I was just like, ooh, it's going to be a tough year for Hunter. And wow, he must be having so much fun.
Let's talk about why Hunter's doing great, though. He had 3 players, right? He didn't have a ton of picks, but he had 3 players. Lamar Jackson, he had Nick Chubb, and he had Cooper Kupp.
That's true.
Those were his big, like, he went 3 for 3 on the like the big picks that he had. Like, all of those guys have absolutely killed it this year. Throw on top of that Swift has been out, so Jamal Williams has gotten him a good chunk of points. Like,
yeah,
Lazard has been like the only consistent option for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Like, everything has broken his way, and that's not like that's not a negative on Hunter at all. Like, he's just nailed it. He didn't have a lot of capital going into the draft, and every single pick he made was a good one. But now you look at, like, okay, his Cup is on bye, so he's projected for 105 points. Like, one of his stars is out, and he's got no depth. So I'm curious to see how Hunter's going to navigate against me and again, like, what through the bye weeks. Like, if this is going to be like, I don't see him coming like, there's sort of 6 weeks through the season, like 10, 11 weeks in, like, I don't think there's any way he's in first place. Like, I'm not saying I'm the guy who takes him down either.
I would just say, like, keep in mind, I'm pretty sure if you go back through the weeks, Hunter has not had high projections. Like, I think he's honestly, his team might just be out kicking their coverage. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but again, like, what a surprise. And again, also, like, the entire season's still super close, just like last season. And it's because I feel like the NFL has been lower scoring, has like weird player blowouts, right? Like, inconsistency from the top down. Like, this has been the one year that managers have to be on top of their game of at least having talent that can perform. And again, kind of like Travis, like, Hunter's has the ability to find those players at times that are way better than they're supposed to be.
The stat I saw was that scoring across the NFL is down by over a touchdown from just 2 years ago.
Yeah,
over a touchdown per game. And then also, I don't remember exactly what the stat was, but they're like the percentage of big plays, which were defined as like plays over 25 yards, is also like way down. So I don't know if that just means defense has gotten better, or if there's a lack of just like star players making those big breakout plays. Like I can't actually explain that, but you know, Drew Brees is retired. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers don't look as good. Russell Wilson sucks. I called it. Like there's
Touche.
there's I don't think there's a lack of star power in the NFL, but yeah, like scoring is just down across the board. And that's,
I mean, Tom Brady is recorded saying, like, he was asked, like, why do you think the scores are so bad? Or like, why do you think there are these upsets? And he's just like, everyone's playing shitty football. Like there hasn't been these like beautiful symphonies of perfect football across like maybe Josh Allen and maybe the Chiefs. Occasionally you'll have one or two games from other people, but it's just bad football everywhere.
yeah. I have a theory too, but James, I want to get your thoughts on the low score. And obviously, I mean, you and I especially have been
Yeah, we've had front row seats.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also so many like not season ending injuries, but just so many like guys are out for 2 games. Like I think with the IR change, however many seasons ago that was, where you're not out till like halfway through the season, but like the short IR,
Yeah.
like play and like it's good for player health, but like I think it's more inclined that like a player has something, they're like, let's shut him down for an extra 2 weeks and get an extra roster spot and be safe. And then you're really hurting, particularly early in the season.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like the NFL is kind of shifting towards like the Niners, Chiefs, Bills model of like a bunch of targets and you're kind of hitting them all instead of the superstars getting more than 50% of like target shares. And it's just like there's so many players on every team now that get meaningful downs and looks that you can't like do the plug and play anymore of like, I got my guys, my lineup looks like pretty much the same each week. Like maybe the flex spot I rotate, like you really have to have like the running back by committees and like these wide receivers that are randomly getting a bunch of targets. I'm just mad. I'm mad. I loved my team.
So here's my thoughts on the entire NFL. And I want to call it like the NBA-ification of how teams are approaching the season, because like the Warriors are the best example of that. Like it doesn't matter. You can go 73-9 and not win a title. You can be the 3 seed and win it all, because it doesn't matter. Home field advantage isn't really a thing for game 7 in the NFL or in the NBA. It's not really a thing anymore. Like teams are so used to playing wherever that unless you're the 1 seed now in the NFL, like unless you're the 1 seed, you have to win 4 games in the playoffs. Right? Only the 1 seed has to win 3. Last year, neither 1 seed won a single playoff game. The year before that, the Titans got bounced in their first game, or not. No, sorry, the Titans were the 1 seed last year. I can't remember who the 1 seed was in the NFC 2 years ago, but the Chiefs did make it all the way to the Super Bowl. But in the divisional round, 1 seeds in the last 2 years are 1-3. So even being the 1 seed doesn't seem to be that big of an advantage. Last year's Super Bowl was between the 2 4 seeds. The Niners made the NFC title game as a 6. It doesn't matter how good you are in the regular season anymore, and teams have realized that. Like it does, and we as fans, I'm going to overreact still as a fan. Like when the Niners played the Broncos and the Bears, and last week against the Falcons, like, it was all bad football, and it was frustrating as a fan. But they're in first place. Like they're in line to just, and they just got better with McCaffrey. Like we're going to continue to see a worse regular season product because the incentive to push for the like to be the number 1 seed, be the best, like isn't there anymore. We're going to continue to see bad football in the early part of the season for the foreseeable future, as long as the NFL keeps expanding playoffs to almost half the league. I don't see how we can get away from that as fans. Like because we're just, we just want to see good football in the field. But guess what? Like, it doesn't matter. Literally, there's not a single team who's eliminated right now. And there's 7 or 8 teams that are just so bad, they're not going to make a push anyway. So all you have to do, you can be mediocre in October, even into November, and still have a great chance to win a title.
I have no arguments. Yeah. It makes sense. It's weird how the greediness of the owners wanting more money by expanding the playoffs and getting more revenue is actually ruining the game. And they just don't get it, right? It's the same as like when they added the additional game to the regular season. It's more of a revenue thing, but you're extending the amount of hits that these players are playing at full speed. So therefore you're, getting more injuries. And with those injuries, like you want to save these. Hold up, I should watch. Player safety is important, right? So you want to reserve them when you can. And if you have like a couple extra games, you're right. You kind of can afford to lose like a game or two here and there. And it is the NFL where it's like, look at the NFC West, right? Across the board, aren't we all 3-3? So like it's wild to think like we're this far into a season in the NFC West, which we presumably thought like the Seahawks would be trash, right? They're 2-4, I think. And so it's like, but that's not the only division that looks like that. Look at like I think the AFC South is the same way. Now that is an actual trash division, but like, is anyone really running away with it? Maybe other than the Eagles? Like, and they said that on the broadcast on Thursday. It's like, it could be anyone's league this year. It can be anyone's title. So how do we get back to real football?
The NFL's changing, and that's why I'm losing. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
And blame the system.
Well, yeah, let's talk fake football then. James, we're gonna look at your team first.
All right.
I'm sorry. Obviously McCaffrey is a trade option here, but I'm gonna ask it. This is my thought process on as a team who's in sell mode also is which assets do I want to make sure I hold on to for next season now? Like, what's your thought process on who you have? I haven't done the deep dive on your roster because I'm also in sell mode. So talk me through like players that, and I don't want you to spoil any of your trade talks, but like players that like are more likely to be traded, obviously like McCaffrey versus someone who's less likely to be traded. Like what are the thoughts on what your roster looks like for next year?
Yeah, I think McCaffrey's not on my team prior to Sunday. I can't keep him. Hoping to get a few early picks. In return, helps that it's a league full of Niners fans. I think Ken Walker I have to keep. I drafted him late, thinking I had a deep roster and could afford to have a bench slot to let him take the job, and injury opened it up and he looks good. So I think just got a text from Nabil, excited to see what he offered.
I didn't offer anything.
So Ken Walker stays, I think, unless I get a crazy offer. And then I think AJ Brown probably goes too. I don't think I'd see him as a keeper in the first round next year, but I think he's been lighting it up, and Philly's offense is looking great. So see him leaving the team too. And then I think I have a decision to make around Hollywood Brown or Mike Williams. I like them both. They're both mid to late keepers. I think I'll probably keep one and ship off the other. Yeah, trying to see. I don't know. I have a decision to make there. I think I would like to recoup 3 players worth of picks and then have a mix of early picks and keepers. I think Devin has shown though, a safer route to go is get a shit ton of picks and figure it out in the draft. Keepers are great, but you never know what happens. A committee could get split. A player can get injured. But yeah, I have Jameson Williams too. I think he could be good. I'm going to hold on to him, and when he comes back from IR, I think he could be a sneaky good rookie. But yeah, just a lot of people who underperformed, except for these like handful of people who could have been great, but were just like not healthy or blowing up the same week. Just like a huge performance from AJ Brown, and then like 1 point from Mike Williams, and then 40 points from Mike Williams, and Hollywood gets hurt. And then I've had like 4 weeks where the quarterback gets hurt within in the first half and ends the game under 5 points. So it's been a tough year. Unlucky.
Yeah. Nabil, as a buyer, like, who are you? And again, I don't want you to spoil any of your trade talks, but like, and McCaffrey is the obvious choice. So who's your second favorite player on James's roster you targeting?
This is so dirty.
You don't have to, yeah, like
no, here's the thing. I'm not airing it out because I think for the most part, like, unless it's someone randomly comes out and is like, hey, James, I want to trade for Zay Jones, right? Like, all of us probably know who the main targets are, right? It's all these people whose keeper value generally does not make sense in our league. And or someone who's just this blowing up and has no keeper value. Like, I don't know if you have picked up anyone who's been like sneaky good. It looks like your entire team has either been drafted or traded for. But like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey is the obvious. AJ Brown, like, I don't know what it is, because I actually have him as a keeper in another league of mine, but he doesn't look like the guy who's really gonna blow up, right? He's not. That doesn't seem to be how the Eagles are, because they have Devontae great, right? And it's like, what is it? The skinny Batman, buff Batman, or whatever like they call themselves. Right. But it's just like, I think AJ Brown would be good if you're looking for a consistent wide receiver. And yes, like, he is someone I'd be interested in. Will be texting James throughout the day, ideally before anyone else wakes up. But like, it comes down to him, and I don't trust Mike Williams. I have him in another league. I can't, with like Keenan Allen coming back. Like, Mike Williams did disappear, and he's makes for like maybe a 1 or 2 big plays. He's not the volume guy. So you're not like our league. And I learned this with Alvin Kamara at the end of that game. Like, is a volume league. If you can get any form of a reception, it'll break the stats, because it's just that value of 1 full point is so great. And so when you're looking for your wide receivers, they either need to be full on volume guys, or they need to be big play touchdown guys. And that's what Mike Williams was supposed to be, but something's off in LA. But it is wild, because I don't value Mike Williams as much, but I also have Mike Evans. So I have my version of Mike Williams. So I don't know. I didn't really offer much. If I were James, I would hold on to Kenneth Walker. That reminds me of the Fournette keeper that I had. You have him already. You're guaranteed what will, if anything, be an RB2, because they drafted that guy to step in for Penny. So ideally, they have the confidence in him. It is Pete Carroll, but it would make sense to me that would be my long-term hold. So I'm not going to try to make a move on that. I don't know. That's my mentality in going to offer trades. And I feel like I mean, yes, James, I feel like sometimes we jokingly bicker back and forth, but like, I think in general, I try to like at least say like, hey, here are the players I want. Yeah. Like, I would assume this guy is your keeper. So
yeah, we agree on the players worth trading for. We disagree on the value.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, something for Mike Will, I don't know that I agree. Maybe like, he's gotten double-digit targets in half his games. Like,
half the games Keenan Allen's been out.
I know.
Keenan's been out since like week 1.
You can't trust Keenan Allen to come back at this point, as someone who has him in multiple leagues, including a dynasty league. And then I really like, but here's the thing too, like, they aren't as many double digits, but like minimum 7 targets for AJ Brown. 3 catches 1 time for only 6 points. Like, I don't know. They're both good. They're both good assets. And I think it's just obvious that, AJ Brown's the better trade option, just because there really is no keeper value to keep him at 1. But yeah, it sucks looking at this roster still, James. I'm like, how is this team in like how am I beating you right now? I don't get
Yeah.
it.
And Javonte Williams went out with the ACL. It's been tough.
What yeah, and I'm curious, like I mean, obviously he's still on your IR. Is Trey Lance in the mix, you think, next year as a 9th round keeper? Or what's the or like, I mean, you don't have to make, that's the cool thing is you don't have to make
There's no reason for me to stash anyone else on the IR, so why not? And see what reports look like, and if I'm feeling like it, or just like I did last year, block anyone else and outbid in Rule 9. Yeah, it feels like there's no reason to let him go. Just wait and see.
We shall. All right, I put you through the ringer, James, so we'll do the same thing with my team.
It made me so like physically mad at you, Nabil, to hear you be like, I don't know, he's not a great trade target. I was like, shut your mouth. Everyone's listening. He's a great trade target.
Well, here's the thing, like, and I meant to say this part, it's so dependent on your roster construction. Like the reason why he's not a target for me is, again, like when I've been beginning that I set my team up to essentially be like, I need to have that 1 or 2 big play guys. Right now with Evans and Chase, I don't need a guy like Mike Williams. If I do want it, I want someone in my flex who's consistent. But like people build their rosters differently. So for me, it's not good, but it might be good for someone else.
It's just they're my boys. It feels dirty to hear someone bad mouthing them. I'm just like, get out of here. My team's excellent as I'm sitting there 1-5.
That's good. That's good. So looking at my roster, something that kind of popped out to me, like I've had one offer for Lockett already. That was like a 6th rounder, and I basically rejected it because it's like, look, like Lockett might only be worth that to someone who's trading for them, but like I could just keep Lockett in the 7th next year. Like trading for a 6th round, like just hurts me. Like trading Lockett away without getting a player back hurts me now. And realistically, the difference between a 6th and a 7th round pick is nothing, right? Like that, it's so minuscule, it doesn't matter. So, you know, that's just something I'm putting out there into the universe. Like, give me better picks. One thing that I do have a lot of, like, you know, T. Higgins, yeah, he's tradable, but at the 9th round keeper, like he's gonna be a solid player on my roster for at least 1 more year. Allen Robinson at 3, no. Like, now is he as talented of a player? Obviously not. But you know, really, just I'm open to hear. Like, I feel left out. Like everyone's saying, like, oh, the vultures are circling around James, and it's like, well, why isn't anyone trying to get players off my roster? But come on, I've got good players too. But yeah, it's I'm basically just throwing out a team who's trying to score 100 every week at this point. Is what it feels like. The revolving door at running back, that is my team. The revolving door at wide receiver. And here's the thing that I'll put out that just sucks. And James, you've probably experienced this more than me than you have at the quarterback position. It's like, oh, T. Higgins is going to play. And then he gets 10 snaps and like 1 target.
Yeah.
Just don't play. Like, just make it easy. Like, just don't play. You know, that's all I'm asking is for, you know, if you're going to play. If not, like Tyler Lockett is, it looks like should be more than doubtful. Today as it's 7 a.m. looks like he's gonna play. Just
dude, it's the same as Rashad.
Play or don't. Like, it's really frustrating that, like, Tyler Lockett, I'm kind of assuming will play on Sunday.
And we've talked about this before, right? It's like whatever they did with changing the designations just kind of made it harder for fantasy, which whatever, again, like they don't care about fantasy that much. No. But it's like we sit there and it's like, I have the same problem with Rashad Bateman. It's like,
yeah,
dude, he had something with his foot. They didn't really go into it. And they're like, oh, he might play. And then you get that out last minute. Or like Kamara, right? Like he had these sore ribs and then just randomly, luckily I happened to live 2 hours ahead. And I was able to wake up and see that, oh, hey, he's out. Like if they do care about fan experience, they need to also figure out these designations and like have it make sense. It's starting to be like basketball, right? It's like, when is it load management versus like, okay, getting him out there and just having him be a decoy, I guess is good for football, but bad for fandom, right?
And it's just crazy how big fantasy football's gotten to that, like, there's that pressure on the game of like, hey, come on, like it, you can tell coaches and players feel it of like, yeah, I know you're all wondering like, wow, Kyle Pitts hasn't got a touchdown. Like our offense is working, so leave us alone. Like we're, I think the Falcons are doing a lot better than people expected them to, but like it must suck as a coach being like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry our tight end isn't scoring you enough points, but like we're doing all right. It's crazy.
Like ultimately NFL teams care about winning games.
Yeah.
Not getting guys their touches. Like
Sure.
Do
you not want to talk about players on your team past what you said?
Let's talk about it.
So the guy, so with 3 keepers, the guys I'm really targeting, I think that like the least tradable for me is T. Higgins, like at 9th round, like
makes sense.
Too much value. I know he's been injured, but honestly, like 5th round for James Conner is probably still worth it. Like if he's supposed to come back this year, if he can bounce back and be healthy, the Cardinals aren't going to make a deep playoff run. So he's going to have, he'll have not that much mileage on him. Starting the number 1 running back on any team with a decent offense in the 5th round, like that's pretty good value still as well. Number 3 is where it's like, I don't know. I don't know who's going to end up being the player that is worth it. It's which makes trading away those players hard to figure out. Like, is it going to be Mostert? Like, does he emerge? If he emerges as the number 1, then yeah, of course, for the same logic that as Connor, like it's obvious that he's got to be, like he's someone to target. Is it MVS who had a touchdown taken away from him by an ineligible player downfield, who has not scored yet, but like is a good player and a great offense at 10. Like, so my main thing is
sales pitch.
My main thing is there's a lot, like all the players that I have that are worth trading are going to be on your roster next year as well. Like, So it's going to take a lot of draft capital for me to actually make that move. That's the main reason I think why I'm not being as active in selling. It's like, it seems like we haven't like broken through the, like the first round pick, like it's, no one's traded a 3rd round pick. No one's traded a 5th round pick even yet. Like, so how can I ask for a 2nd round pick when it's like that, like there hasn't been like that establishment of like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, I'm going to have to, be the person who, I need a 3rd round pick for Lockett is what, like, I need, like, but that's a lot I understand that that's a lot to ask for, but also like, I don't want to just give up a player like Tyler Lockett, who's at 7, like is worth keeping if he can stay healthy. Like not a ton of value, but like not no value when we're at 3 keepers. So that's for me. It's like, like I want a lot. Like I know Christian McCaffrey is going to get a lot, and I'm not going to get the same amount for Raheem Mostert as Christian McCaffrey is going to get. I know that, but the players that I have that are available are going to be on your roster for 2 years.
Yeah, I think you and I are in like opposite ends of the spectrum. Like I have just like these few guys with no keeper value that will help you the rest of the season. So like they're big names, like it makes sense to move them now, where like you've got a like deeper roster that aren't as clear cut, like there's a 20 point a gamer, but like, so I think it makes sense for you to like sit tight. You've got these guys that like worst case scenario, you don't trade them. They're great keeper value. But like as the season goes on, if Devin's team loses 2 players to like 2 key injuries, you've got depth to like fill out a playoff roster, and like they're gonna have more value down the road. Like maybe DK goes down and Lockett all of a sudden is like
Right.
worth a second. Like you've got the opportunity to be patient to recoup more valuable picks.
I think it's interesting, right? Because we're all sitting, well, like you two are, sorry, representing the sellers. That's a nicer way of saying.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I kind of am representing a buyer. And it's funny to hear Chris's point, right? When it comes to where you're valuing these players. And I was in the same position last year or 2 years ago. So I totally get it. It's like, you don't want to be selling or asking ridiculously high, and then you're left holding the bag, right? And you just like have too many players, and it's like all of us are sitting there like, okay, here comes rule 9. We're gonna like pick off the players you couldn't trade, right? And you might be able to trade them right before rule 9, but we also know that like sometimes people anymore. And I think we have to remember that we've been doing keepers now for quite a while, and we're starting to understand more and more of what our values are. James had a good point of like, those values for you guys will increase as you get later in the season when, well, I guess it's like it's the same concept of holding the bag, but like if you get towards the end of the season, you might be able to trade them at a higher value, but you also risk, right? You risk that 1 or 2 more weeks where then, Christian McCaffrey comes in, tears his ACL, and then it's like that guy who would have pulled in a first or a third round pick or something is worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like balancing, like, you know what your players are worth. Can you get and can you acquire the at least rounds that will benefit you next year that maybe aren't ideal, right? You might value, like, I'll be honest with you, Chris, I think a 3rd rounder for Tyler Lockett is nuts. I personally would not be paying that. But like, would you be cool with like a 4th or a 5th? And if you're able to, get at least somewhere near what your market value was or what you believe that it should cost, then like you're probably benefiting. Then what if he goes out, he has an injury history, especially soft tissue, does something and messes up his hamstring. Now his value is completely gone and you're holding the bag on what you could have had in 4th and 5th, right? It's like, I've been in the position of selling, and it's so hard because you know what they mean to you. And I think, like, Chris, your point of like having a lot of players for next season, I don't think the entire league still fully grasps how to value keepers. Like, as far as like Tony Pollard at a 5th, like, how do I value, like, is he worth a 5th? Is he worth a 4th? Like, how do we do the math on like keepers versus like, James, it's a lot easier to sell ahead. You get him for a season, go win your championship. I can ask for a 1st or a 2nd because that guy is going to win it, And
it does me no good to just leave him sit on my roster.
Yeah.
What's funny is with Pollard, like I think his keeper value and his current year value both go up, unfortunately, if Zeke goes down, right? Like if Zeke, excuse me, if Ezekiel Elliott is going to play in Dallas next year, like Tony Pollard as a 5th round keeper is not worth it. He's also not like worth a ton right now. Like right now, like him and Zeke are equals almost in touches and in fantasy value. So that doesn't make Tony Pollard's like jump off the page as like, oh yeah, like this guy, like you have to trade for, he's a league winner right now, unless you're rooting for Zeke to go down, and I'm not. But I have it's same thing with Madison, right? Like Madison is the insurance plan for Dalvin Cook. That's about it. Like my team is built around like all this potential. MVS, if some guys go down in Kansas City, like all of a sudden he becomes, the number 2 or maybe even number 1 receiver there instead of like the 3rd or 4th option. T. Higgins is the same thing with Jamar Chase. Like, so much of my team is based on that potential, and I think that's making it just like that. Like whether you agree on the value or not, like it just because there's a particular amount of unknown with the guys in my roster. It's making it difficult to figure out what that value is. On top of every point you made, Nabil, that I don't think I don't think everyone has the same understanding, or at least like we all have different ways of approaching what those keeper values are. And I think also some people just aren't really even necessarily paying attention to anything
Yeah.
beyond the season.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you guys use any other tools? Like, yes, I think it's either shown up on my screen once or twice when we've shared, or just like I think I've said it. I use the Fantasy Pros, my playbook. Like, do you use, because like I've made trades in other leagues and they print their like player values, and I had to like work a deal through that. Like maybe this podcast is left talking about the season. It's now just talking about like, what are your guys' like we might as well talk about it, because there's probably people who like aren't as active in talking about this. Like, yeah, we know Hunter loved the deal, and like Kevin has his approach to making deals, and like there are people who don't ever trade. We know that when it comes to draft time and they have all of their picks perfectly lined up. But like, what are your guys' approach? Like, what maybe it is revealing a little bit behind the curtain since you guys are sellers, so maybe hide some of that. But like, what is your approach? Are you going to go sell, or are you just waiting for people to come in?
I have like my tried and true resources for the draft. I think mid-season though, and with trade value, it's hard to find anything that is particularly helpful with how unique our league is set up. I think at that point it becomes kind of just an individual valuation of like, you know what, I really think that running backs, like just kind of doing general research of like, do people predict a player to have a backfield or have a target share in future seasons, and kind of what I already have in terms of keepers versus like what I could use. I think in my dynasty league I use like cut trade keep or whatever. Like that's a helpful resource for like long term value. But I think our league is like so unique, it's hard to kind of go off anything besides like gut of like, yeah, I don't really like that guy. Like that is good keeper value. I just like, I don't know. I don't feel sure about him, so I'm not interested. I'm sorry. Or like, I really like this person. I believe I'll have 2 stud young running backs. Like it's hard to use any, for me, like rankings or values with how unique our setup is.
Similar for me. James actually knows which value-based like draft guide tool, whatever you want to call it, like that. Like I have like a trusted source for the draft, and with the uniqueness of our league, it's like I don't follow it blindly, but like I have like the database that I trust, and I do a lot of work on that, where essentially this part isn't the secret for the draft. As we go through keepers and rule 9, but the keepers first, like I will just cross off. I mean, I usually print a sheet, or maybe I'll do it, on an Excel. I get rid of the players who are going to be kept, or once the keepers are announced, like are kept. And just re-go through the draft, like just actually like pick by pick for at least the first 5 or 6 rounds. Like once you get beyond round 7 or 8, it really starts to fall apart, because everyone has different information and they're not picking off of the guys that I want. But the top is the top, right? Like everyone knows that. So I have a pretty good idea of like where I'm going to get certain players each year. It's how I base my how I value rule 9, which is I think why I've often like been like around higher than a lot of, like I've won a lot of rule 9 picks over the last 3 years, if you look at it, because I re-dope the draft to know like, okay, my 5th round pick is actually like closer to a 7th round pick, and this player is like is probably 5th round pick in redraft. So like I actually need to use a 4th round pick to get him. Joe Burrow. In season though, it's really hard. Like it's a lot of just like I know that I don't pay for Fantasy Pros, but like I mean, I think I kind of opened the curtain a little bit about like my thoughts on James Conner, right? Like he is the number 1 running back in a pretty decent offense.
Benjamin did look good. I'll just say that.
Yeah, no, he did, and I've got him as well.
Yeah.
I
saw
got
that.
him as well. But James Conner is still at least the de facto number one, and he's going to come back, and we'll see. And that's kind of the beauty of him coming back this year, is I'll get to see. But if he is that number one running back, like that is going to be worth a 5th round pick. Therefore, he has keeper. Like it's almost like a yes or no, is the way I look at it. Like, does T. Higgins have keeper value? Like, yes, he does. Does Tyler Lockett have keeper value? In my opinion, yes, he does, with the way that our league is set up. Now, he's closer to no, but like right now, yes. Does Alexander Madison have keeper value at 8? Yes, he does. Like like that, like he's going to get picked in the 8th round, right? For me, it's establishing like just where are they on the team, and thinking about it in a more like ephemeral sense. Like, would that typically be worth that value? Because we won't know until rankings really start to come out, until the NFL draft happens, and you don't know, like rookies get assigned, trades are going to happen in the offseason, free agent signings. Hollywood Brown going to the Cardinals was one of the weirdest, awkward things that could have happened to me and keeping him last year, because I knew what his value was in Baltimore, but so you hope that those things don't happen. But really, trusting any sort of source out there, like I'm also just going to make guesses, right? These people get paid to make those guesses, but whether they're right or wrong, like they get paid the same amount. So I'm I'm going to try to trust my own gut a little bit more.
Yeah. James? Or do you mostly disagree?
I disagree. I agree. Should we look at matchups?
He doesn't peeling the curtain too much. No, I think my last on that is like, it's funny because I know at least with what I've tried to do is try to find more fair picks, especially using like Fantasy Pros. They do it where it's like, here's your percentage. And at this point, look, we all have our own resources. There's no more just like, ooh, I'm going to be sneaky. Everyone's probably reading the same damn articles, watching the same damn YouTube videos, or listening to the same podcast.
It's extremely rare to find in our league a time when you value someone way more than anyone else in the league. Like the outliers are just a few rounds off. It's not like you're going to have like a multi-round different opinion on a guy.
Yeah, because I know I mostly am now just looking at ranks. But yeah, let's jump into matchups. I get it. Keep talking about that. You guys are sellers/losers. It happens.
Well, hey, let's talk about like actually winning the league. This whole time it's just been like, yeah, let's look at the last place people in the league.
I know that's why very quickly we're going to knock out our matchups first, so we can go on to the good stuff. But I am playing Hunter, who's in first place.
Yeah,
as I mentioned, Cooper Cup's bye week. I got very lucky. Don't have to play against his best player. And I've got 23 points from Benjamin to start out. So I'm feeling pretty good. Nabil, anything in particular jumping out to you as a matchup or as part of the matchup that is you think is going to be important for this weekend?
Well, I think it's going to be rough, right? Because Jeff Wilson's coming in and his value has tanked. I don't think McCaffrey will come in and be through the roof usage. Though it's like not that hard to know. Hey, line up in the I run a mic, and then you're just like, he knows what that is. He just needs to know the cadences. But if he knows going into each play, like he's going to get the ball and he just needs to tote it, like do it. Right. So that's kind of the unfortunate part for Hunter is that, but he's already projected to lose. So like, he just is hoping that he gets a big play from Lazard or Chubb or something like that. For you, it's like, I think you're just putting out your best possible team, and I think you'll get a win. And maybe all this trade talk stuff, like you could turn it around. Like, I don't think having 5 losses is absolutely the end. It just means you're getting that step closer to being like, okay, nope, I need to start selling, because there is that weird, not to go back to trade talk, but there is that weird moment where it's like, oh, I'm way too into the season now. and you start like, what if you go on a, 3-game winning streak and you're 4-5, and now you're like, I don't know what to do. Do I lose this player? I can still turn it around. Certainly we were all there last year, but no, I think the projection is probably accurate on this matchup, and there's probably not much more to say about it.
The margin of error for me long term is just slimmer. That's all. Like I just can't, and there's a couple games that I probably should have won already. Like I very easily could be 3-3, but made some bad start-sit decisions. James, anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, I think like with Lamar on Hunter's team, you never know. Like that could be a 40-pointer that like is tough to get out from under. I think Hunter's like a prime buyer. Like he's like expertly navigated his way to 5-1, but like who knows how long Jamal Williams is relevant, like with Swift coming back. Like I could see Hunter like making his move now, and not trying to say like Hunter come get guys from me, but like I think he could shore up his roster and like trade for a big name, and this projection could look different on Sunday.
He's proven that you can sell all your picks, and still be fine next season, right? So like, why not? Like, why not be? I was going to say, why not just be the Rams, right? Like the Rams are notorious for like, let me buy all the big names. Who cares? Get rid of my draft capital, trade for everyone, and like, okay, do it again. Like buy everyone. Like he's 5-1, a rare opportunity to be set to win. Now sell. Like who needs your picks next? Try to get the W. Set a solid team. Like I think that was a perfect point, James.
Yeah. Something that scares me about Hunter's team is just how many boomer bust players he has. Lamar could go for 40. Lazard could like have a 30-point game at any point. Claypool, same.
Yeah.
Like
Rodgers might be pissed off, and
like we just don't know. Like maybe Jeff Wilson actually does get a ton of touches. Like we don't know. I imagine that he might like this might change with Reynolds here, but playing the 2 Detroit players, like I don't know. We'll see what Hunter goes with, but I don't projected to win, but I'm this year has taught me not to be confident about anything. All right, James, what are you looking for in your team? As far as, I mean, you're actually not too big of an underdog going up against Hoyt. Anything in particular you're hoping for this week?
General health. Would love to not lose anyone for the rest of the season. I think like I expect a few of these guys to not be on my team come Sunday. I think would love to see Kenneth Walker just continue to kill it. Geno Smith, even though he's a Seahawk, it's just such a fun storyline. Would like love to see him continue to put up like 20 plus fantasy points a week. And then I think I've mismanaged my fab horribly this season too. Just like panicking out each week to like grab guys for 10, $15 to like stay relevant. But I think Zay Jones gets a lot of targets. Like, who knows? The Jacksonville Jaguars are like kind of fun. Same with Evan Ingram. God, it's sad that I have 2 Jaguars in my starting lineup and I haven't even gone through my trades yet. And like on the other side, like Kenyon Drake could be a great play for Hoyt with like Baltimore's backfield not looking as clear. I think Tyler Boyd's like a sneaky play week to week. Like you never know what's going to happen, especially like T. Higgins could take a hit and miss the rest of the game. And then CeeDee Lamb with Dak coming back could be like huge. So I think Hoyt's definitely, I think his projected should be a little higher. I think he'll go over the 113. And I just hope I stay above 75.
The thing that sticks out to me is I have no idea what Kenny Pickett should be projected for.
It's true.
I just don't like. I feel like this is probably right, but it just feels weird that any quarterback is that low of a projection.
Yeah.
Beetle, what are your thoughts?
I think we could start with the quarterback. I think 13, should be the floor, but we've seen time in, time out. Doesn't matter who your quarterback is. It could be Tom Brady, it could be Aaron Rodgers, that could be Russell Wilson, it could be whoever. Like you never actually know if they can actually even break 10 anymore, right? So I think it's a rookie. We have no idea. I look at Hoyt's team and I look at his record. And yes, he's in my division. Hoyt like cannot catch a break, and it's hard because like I look at that team, that it's not terrible. Like J.K. Dobbins got injured and he's playing Kenyon Drake, and okay, that'll probably work out. But like, how can he sit there and feel like he's done anything wrong? Like, his team looks good. And I was joking before that, like, okay, he like lost his first two and he feels bad. Then he went on a 2-game winning streak. And that was like, oh dude, it's reverse of every other year. But he just hasn't gotten lucky. And I feel like maybe that's just this season. Like, we're all kind of in that same boat. But I think he turn it around and likely have a chance to beat James. Again, what James said, he probably isn't going to have all his same players that we're seeing now. And that's good. Maybe this is what Hoyt needs to get all his players back. He's got like Jalen Hurts on bye. So maybe this is the best possible time for him to have Hurts on bye, is when he'd be selling. And so I don't know. I actually want good news for Hoyt. Like, I look at his team and I'm like, he didn't do anything wrong. No. Like, it's just been such a wonky season.
Yeah. And I feel bad constantly talking about being a promoter, a slimy promoter, and being like, come get guys. But if Hoyt buys from me this week, he's buying not only a player, he could buy a win and get back into it. I think the division, he's 2 wins away from first in the division. Like, yeah, he can make a move, and like, he's got some names. It's just been like a shaky start, but like Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, like CeeDee Lamb, Derek, like, he's got the pieces there. It's just kind of like, unfortunately, yet again, just broke the wrong way. But like, there's still a lot of season left.
Yeah, it's I mean, Hoyt, I think my main takeaway from this is he's very lucky that on his Hurts Goddard bye week, he gets to play you, James, in a week where you decided like, hey, it's time to sell. Yeah, like, this could be a really good turning point for Hoyt. I mean, after this week, we mark halfway through the season. If he can upgrade, right, like at like any position really, because I mean, Lamb is great, Godwin can be great, Boyd is very close. Like, I mean, he's a third receiver in Cincinnati, but he's the best third receiver in fantasy. It's like, if he just gets one more elite player, like Hurts, Lamb, Henry, maybe McCaffrey, like that's a winning roster, right? Like that's the roster that wins fantasy league. So
dude, if he just comes out, sells the mill to you, right? Get McCaffrey and Mike Williams, his roster becomes absolutely scary. Like,
yeah, with the number 1 QB in the league, like Jalen Hurts is just putting up, I don't know, maybe he's second behind Lamar, but like, yeah, that's a top to bottom.
Like, and he might need to think about it. And like, and I didn't actually really think about that. We look at you that this is essentially a buy if you do end up selling this week. But like, I never thought like he might want to look at talking to you. And hell, even though I don't want to, maybe I should tell him like, yo, Hoyt, if you're too busy this weekend, you got a wedding this weekend, get on your phone and make a trade, because no time better than now for him to like try, like, if he truly wants to win the league and like stop kind of getting in the butt of our jokes, like, this it is a prime time. Like, I didn't even really think about it, and you just gave away a great game plan for Hoyt. Like, sell next year, who cares? Just get a dub and players.
And it's not even like this year's Hoyt. It's like right now, this week. Like, this is like, even if he doesn't actually make a deal with you, James, like, now is the time to like get a guaranteed win. Like, get yourself to 3 and 4 instead of 2 and 5, and have and potentially set yourself up with one of the best rosters. Like, you're not going to get one of the buys. You got to win 3 playoff games, get a team that can guarantee you that. Like, he's that close to having a dominant team, even though he's, in 9th place at the moment.
Get the win when your quarterback is out. Like, look, right. There's so many teams here, like myself included. I have not been able to find a goddamn quarterback who can play the game. You have Hurts. Get by your 1 bye week with your quarterback not playing, and then you're set, because all of us are struggling with quarterbacks. All the projections of who's going to play. Weird. This just got intensely like, Hoyt, listen to this podcast. I'm going to just tell him.
It did. Let's keep it rolling. We got Kevin, who's surprisingly 3-3 outside of the playoff picture right now, versus Spencer, 4-2. This is a huge matchup. Absolutely huge matchup. James, let's start with you. Obviously, we got 19.3 points out of Hopkins already. That's huge for Kevin. He hasn't set his lineup yet, so Sanders is in there. What are you thinking? Looking at and I got the bench players up. Like, what's the key for this match?
Yeah, I think Kevin could. This is a division matchup, right? Or is
Yeah.
Kevin in? Did it? No, it's
Kevin and
not.
Spencer, I believe, are both in my division. Let me double check.
No,
Maybe
Spencer's in ours or mine.
Yeah, no, there's only, I guess so. Yeah, so it looks like when you play Antonio Nabil, I'm not sure when that is. That's the last division matchup that is left until the end of the season.
Mhm.
So
That's why I think I'm playing him this week. So that's why we're
okay.
Yeah, Kevin's like smartly waited out the Hopkins.
yeah.
Like I think
They
Kevin's
pepper that
got
guy.
another scary roster. Jonathan Taylor will get back in there. James Robinson's continued to look good. He's got Devontae Adams, who's looked great. Hopkins now. Like I think Pitts is going to get going. Waddle, like Christian Kirk, Ayuk's been getting going. He's just got like a solid roster. So I think I would be scared of Kevin's team. I think on the opposite side, it's also a very scary team.
Yeah.
Both are very, very deep, and it's surprising that they're 3-3 and 4-2. I think these teams already both have a chance to be top teams heading into the playoffs.
And it's a lot closer than it's currently projecting with like you're looking at 111, but and yeah, you said Sanders is on bye, but if Jonathan Taylor comes back in with 16 points,
I mean,
right?
yeah,
like
it's still pretty close.
That's what 25 to 27 in projection.
My projection is within 1 point.
Yeah. No, I think both teams and speaking of a guy in our division, like Spencer's team is really deep. Again, Fantasy Pros has this tool where you can essentially look at like everyone's teams like in a cheat sheet, and it highlights who those players are. Mm-hmm. You look at both these teams and like their depth is like, I wish I could have that many players who are just like, hey, I don't feel that bad plugging them in out of flex or even as a starter. Like this should be a good little like slugger fest ideally. Right. And again, this is one of those weeks that like, maybe Spencer's lucky, like he got another win, becomes 5-2, and you got to avoid Josh Allen against one of like the deepest teams in the league. Like, good on Spence.
This is another quarterback on bye situation that's super interesting because having Josh Allen makes Kevin the favorite, not just according to Yahoo, but just I think according to common sense. Now he has to play against a really good team without Josh Allen. And my other big question is like, how does DeAndre Swift look post-injury? Like if he comes out and is in a timeshare with Williams or just doesn't look great, like this, then, my trade dispenser looks like I'm the winner. If he comes out and look like the first round pick that he was, Spencer all of a sudden just has one of those dominant teams, right? And gets to play against Kevin when, and not Josh Allen. Like, super pivotal matchup, and it should be a slugfest. And I'm almost a little bit bummed that Allen doesn't get to be a part of it, just because, like, then it's like 150 points is going to be needed to win, right? Where now it's only like maybe 140 is the target. But I imagine the loser of this matchup will probably have the most points scored out of all the losers.
Yeah.
Like that. That's what this seems like. I mean, and it's you can never predict that, but it seems like this would be a prime candidate for someone to score 135 and lose. All right, let's look at Nabil and Antonio, the last divisional matchup, as we mentioned, before the end of the season division matchups. Players in already. Antonio, not so good. Nabil, pretty good start. Nabil, it's your team, so let's hear it. What are you hoping for out of the rest of your team this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think said it 1,000 times. I was looking for home run players this year. And I think for over the last 3 weeks, it's really proven to have saved me. There's been a lot of matchups that I was projected to lose come like late Sunday or Monday. And the players that I needed or who are expected to either be home runs or duds have helped save my team. And I honestly, I was expecting not to do too well this week. I have not nailed a quarterback pretty much any of the weeks that I've played. So I'm a little worried there, but Kamara finally is coming to play like into form and what I wanted from the beginning. And even though it came down to like 3 to 4 passes, which turned into like 6 points, swings at the end, that's been great. Taysom Hill did exactly what I like. Chris, you could not have been more right when you picked him up the first time. And when I picked him up, I was like, honestly, like tight end is a crapshoot too. You might as well. It's points or 10 and 10's like not the greatest game from him. And they seem to like the Saints have like gone whack on their game plan. Like I don't know what's happening. Like they know Taysom Hill is explosive, like use him more, but long story short, I feel good going in with a higher projection than before. It seems like all my players are finally hitting and they're hitting in the way that I expected. One might be a dud, but then Chase has his, 30-point game, or Mike Evans has his like 20-point game. And it's like, I just need to put up 120 to feel safe and I'll get by. I think Antonio might have some players on by or something, because I think he's another guy that like we were just like expecting him to be at the top of the league. And he's sitting there at 2-4 and we're all just like, what happened? I don't know. I don't have much more than that.
None of it, Antonio just missed on his picks. I mean, Mark Andrews has been great still. And Stevenson's been great, but like, other than that, like he just hasn't like had, anything like just really turn into like anything great. And you also, once again, we're talking, it is bye-week season. Like you get to avoid Cook and Jefferson. Like
yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
A ton. That's what absolutely jumps off the page to me is Cook and Jefferson is a weird stack to have, but that means they do have the same bye week. And that's not going to help Antonio this week, but I imagine that he'll be able to turn it around. Problem is we're going to be halfway through the season. And there's a good chance that like I'm tied with Antonio at 2-5. James, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Nabil, you've just like, I feel like looking at the first 3 rounds, like 50% of the picks have hit maybe. And like you've skated the running back position like cleanly, like Fournette's looking really good. Kamara's heating up. Like Evans has had like, I don't know, one down week where he didn't play, but like he's looking good. I think Chase is going to get going. And I think like, yeah, you've got a really good shot now for playoffs. Like you've skated through weeks that were like dicey when guys were out or had down games. And like, I don't know, it's looking like smooth waters now and like a week where you can just stack another win with those 2 guys out. But I think Antonio does have a sneaky deep team. Like Jacoby Myers has been pretty damn good and under the radar. I think Brian Robinson's going to get going and like has looked good coming back. Mark Andrews is a beast. So I think like this is a good week for you to like just kind of have like hopefully what should be like a nice win against a team who has its 2 key players out. But I think Antonio's still in it like for the long shot. He could definitely sneak in with like a lower playoff, like a wild card spot.
And I'm just looking at the schedule, like he's lost some like really close games. Hold up. Like he lost to Hoyt 34.86 to 39.46. So he put up a 130, which we always say at this point in our PPR, 130 should guarantee you win. He then lost 121.72 to 121.9 to Kevin. And in the first week, lost 133 to 134. So like,
ouch.
Like he is just, his team is good. He just needs to get a couple more wins. Like you said, just like eke into the wild card or into the playoffs. And he's a team to beat. And to be honest, he might be a guy making moves to like solidify his roster because he's rolling out there with either Derek Carr or Garoppolo. And like, those aren't the best quarterback options. So like go out and buy someone potentially, and he might be a team that we all fear. right? But yes, I'm very lucky that he has Jefferson and Cook out, and because those are the guys that are like your 20 plus points easy, right? I mean, Vikings running game is a little iffy this year, but
I still think Jimmy G is not the most fantasy relevant person, but I do think CMC gives him like a 3-point boost per game potentially. Like a shitty little swing pass could now go for 50 yards. Like Jimmy's not. I think he's a good quarterback. This is nothing against him, but I think like fantasy wise, he's not a boom guy. And CMC, like, it's just crazy that one player all of a sudden, like, Jimmy might put up 20 on a weekly basis and not look that good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
already close.
Look at it, like for the last 3 weeks, he's been like solid, especially the last 2, but never like, ever amazing. But you know, in the league where I have Josh Allen, I picked up Jimmy Garoppolo to slide in there for 1 week, and then no matter how well he does, like he's gonna get cut, and I'm gonna ride with one quarterback on the roster the whole way out. Just like the way that the Niners offense is designed, like whoever's in that quarterback, I mean, we'll see if Trey Lance is a different, like runs it differently, but like when they're like, if it's just a typical like drop back passer, like it's all about possession, it's all about the run game, like it's going to be hard to be fantasy relevant, right? Like I don't think that's a slight against Jimmy at all. We got 2 more. Let's look at Drew versus Travis. I believe this is the first matchup we're looking at where both teams are currently in the playoffs. Travis had 3 players going on Thursday night with Murray, Olave, and Ertz. I'd say he's like okay with how Thursday went. Nabil, how do you look at the rest of this one going this weekend?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Just like he probably would have felt a little bit better had like Kyler not look like a toddler behind his offensive line on Thursday. But he's comfortably going against someone who's not projected to be that high, right? So you're not hitting your 118 right now in projections, but like I also have Aaron Jones in other leagues. It just seems like one of the where he's just going to go for 35, like 35 points. And like Jacobs has been really solid. And the more I kept thinking about Josh Jacobs into the season, it's like, why didn't we see this coming? Like in the past, they've had no wide receivers. So they literally load the box. Josh Jacobs running back. Now they have to focus on Devontae Adams. The box is more open. That's a great pickup. And I think like, I don't know if he's done his normal, hey, Chris, can you put the best projected players in or whatever? And it seems like he could massage the team a little bit more this week, but I think this is probably a comfortable win. Drew, I just feel like kind of got unlucky with like some players just not being the hits that they thought. This is his Stephon Diggs is out this week. So maybe Travis is lucky to get that W. And while they're all 4-2, I think Travis is looking better with a win there. And I'm sorry, Yagi B, for saying that.
Yeah, I continue to think that Travis is the Bill Belichick of the league. Like he does it his own way. He yearly picks players that everyone else is like, it's a tough wide receiver core to enter into the season with. And then Amon-Ra looks amazing. Olave looks amazing. Like those will both be late keepers again. And he'll continue to have these wide receivers that like, how did we all not see? And then like, Aaron Jones, I think will get going. Josh Jacobs has been great. Zach Ertz is still looking like pretty good. I really like who he has on by Gabe Davis. He's a scary team. I think Drew's more of like a boom team. Like maybe Cooks goes off, maybe Kareem Hunt goes off, maybe Joe Mixon goes off, Dak's back. But Travis, like, I think there's like a good 6 teams that like have scary rosters for the playoffs. And Travis, I take back my comment earlier that like we're all have like very similar rankings at this point. I think like Travis is kind of an outlier, and like it definitely goes his way more often than not. Like his teams are always in it, and he's got another pretty dang consistent team.
Yeah. especially if Renfro is healthy and back. It looks like he probably will play, and that that gets Donovan Peoples-Jones out of his starting lineup. Like it's solid. And and then he's got Gabe Davis on bye. Funny how many Buffalo players are just in this matchup.
In lineups, yeah.
I mean, Drew with the majority of them, but the Buffalo defense has been good. Yeah, I feel like Travis is probably, like I don't say going to win comfortably. Like there's a lot that can happen in the week, but like this looks to me like the theme of bye weeks is consistent here. Avoiding Diggs is huge. When Travis had kind of his bye week Armageddon already, he should have he's got the better roster that he can start this week. So Thursday just being okay, I think is fine. And we got one more. We got Rocha and Devin. And Nabil, what thoughts here?
Why'd you have to say it like that? Like, are you just so fatigued? Or is it just another one where it's
I'm tired of looking at other people's rosters with no injury designation. And look how clean this is.
Devin's got to be having a lot of fun.
Look how
this
clean
must be a
this
fun
is.
football season for Devin.
And what's interesting is looking at Devin's team, right? It's like there were some players that he ended up picking up that were kind of duds, but not in the sense that they are bad. They just weren't what they are supposed to perform. But then you get someone like, how did we all let Barkley go? Like, where did we think he's a talented player? Yes, he was on a shitty team, but I can't remember if he picked him up at the second or the first. I guess I could tell by looking at his keeper value. He got him in the second round, right? And his team is pretty damn solid, which we expect when you have so many early picks. And you're right. They have little to no injury raising and I think he comfortably takes this, but then looking at Ryan's team, it's not like Ryan's team is all that bad either. He just got unfortunate with some of the players who are talented that maybe just on paper looked great, but just haven't performed, right? Jerry Jeudy, I'm shocked. He doesn't look good. Yes, some of it is Russell Wilson, but he's had a lot more drops this year. His route, it's great that you can run routes and cut on a dime, but if you can't catch the ball, you're useless in the NFL. And Juju has been able to put up numbers. I think the projection for Mariota is actually pretty low because I do think we're starting to see oh shit, the only talent I have is running. Yeah. And he will put up a solid floor. And so it's all he needs are a couple, maybe with CMC on the Niners, Kittle doesn't have to maybe block as much. I think can run a quicker scheme. So he just needs to cut out and he gets a couple more receptions because that's probably been really disappointing for Ryan, right? It's you drafted what you thought was a third or the top three, tight end and has one big game. And hopefully that's what it's like for the rest of the season for him. But I think Ryan can compete in this game, but God, Devin's team is just annoying to look at when your flex option is, Ezekiel Elliott, who has a really solid floor. It's well, we should all just go home and just let Kevin and Devin just battle for freaking.
How has he lost twice? I don't get it. Anyway, James, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Devin's got such a solid roster. I think he's also a candidate to just go all in on this year and maybe round out the wide receiver position a little bit. Pittman's been a little bit more of a bummer than I think we all thought he'd be, but it's still a very startable week to week guy. Mari Cooper, he's I mean, all of these players would be some of the best players on my team at this point. But the Kelsey Mahomes stack, he's so deep and has been able to withstand Michael Thomas being only in for a game or two, Rashad Penny going down, and he's still got DJ Moore on the bench, DK Metcalf on the bench,
Drake London
as a keeper. His team is so deep. He's got good keepers. I think Devin's another prime candidate to like send off some picks and like get the first round bye and like be a very scary playoff team. And I think Rocha, yeah, like so many of his guys on his rosters I had ranked really high for the draft. And like it's just been such a hard year. Like I thought Juju is going to be way better. I think Terry McLaurin's great, but like that offense is just unfortunately unpredictable. Kittle's had to block with all the O-line injuries. Najee's not looking great behind the like crappy line. Like I was really scared of Roach's roster, and I think it's just like not broken. They're like so many of them just happen to be like unpredictable bummers.
It feels like this could be the week that Rocha like his team breaks too. Right?
Yeah,
breaks like especially with Kittle. Like I look at the Kittle versus Kelsey matchup. Kittle with his tight end type of stuff, like playing against Kelsey. Like it just feels like the kind of week where George Kittle is just going to be on like mentally like on another level. Most likely the 49ers are going to have to throw the ball just like they did last week, which is where Kittle got 10 targets for the first time all year. That could be really good for Rocha. Eckler also playing against Seattle. Like I just imagine he's going to find the end zone probably 2 times. Like, not like I would bet on that. Like, one seems inevitable, 2 seems likely. So maybe that's the only reason why Devin has only a 4-2 record is he just keeps playing against teams that are like having good weeks against him. Because the Mahomes Kelsey stack, I have it in another league. It's been awesome. The Barkley thing that you mentioned, Nabil, like how did we all miss that? It's been like I think about like if I had drafted Barkley instead of Swift, like I'd be like in the playoffs right now. Like, I'd be right now. Like and it's you can't kick yourself too much, but that's a mistake that anyone let Barkley go in that like back half of the first round, right? Like if you look at who was drafted there. So this is the other, we talked about the Kevin and Spencer's matchup. This is the other one I look at, like someone's going to score a lot of points and probably lose. And unfortunately for Devin, it's more likely to be him than Rocha. Like I feel like the 130 projection or 129 is almost low. And this very much could be another game that, both teams are in those 130 to 140 range.
Dude, I'm just looking at Devin's schedule again. Just looking at it, like you were like, how does he have 2 losses? His lowest score is 112, and his loss was a 121. So like he has not put up a bad week. Like yes, 112 is bad for him, but like oh my god, like
look at his points for. It's just
when you've put up almost 2 170s and like your average is a high 120, like that's
just the perfect rebuild. Like he went into it with a bunch of high picks and had the opportunity to like lock down the running back position, get a top QB, get the best tight end, like just very well from recouping from last year to just building like a juggernaut, deep team.
And I feel like what we've learned, right, is like, okay, rebuild your team, get those picks, right? You guys are perfect prime candidates. It's how we started most of this conversation, right? Like get all the picks you can, build a Devin team. But also what we've learned this season is like, and this is not the first season we see this, you could be like Hunter. You can have a winning team having sold all your picks last year and then, okay, do it again, right? So we see like these different strategies that maybe feel wrong. Like it may feel wrong to sell all your picks, right? Which helps you as sellers. It's like, hey, well, look, like Hunter's been fine. So like give me your early round picks. And you guys have the ability to be like, all right, well, maybe it's worth tanking this year a little bit. I use that word lightly, but like, it's incredible to see, like, especially now that we saved this game to look at Devin's roster. That's such a good roster. Like it's hard to like see this knowing that I have a pretty good season going so far. And then know that like, holy shit, these are the juggernauts we're going to have to hit, like knock off, right? So it's wild.
Well, we are, we've We've gone quite a while today, which has been good. Been a couple weeks after a couple weeks off. We're like the Manning brothers, you know. We go every week. Sometimes we just got to take a little bit of a break.
Yep.
But we're back, and we're definitely worth watching over Joe Buck. So with that, I don't have anything prepared, so I'm going to pull one out of my butt. But let's finish like we always do with some bold predictions.
You want me to start? I finally have one.
If you got one, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not that bold, but I just want to put it as a prediction. This is what I think happens. Okay. I think with no more than 5 touches, CMC will be gifted his first touchdown with the Niners on Sunday. It will be the most gimme touchdown. It's going to be like a 2-3 yarder. He's just going to get to walk in there. Hey, welcome to the team. Here's your touchdown. Go get it. And he will literally only have 5 touches. Maybe. It's my prediction. Not that bold, but I like it.
The 5 touches part makes it bold because I feel like it's obvious that they're going to have to give him goal line work. Like because that's easy, right? Like follow your lead block. Like, but the only 5 touches and score, like that's why I'll allow it as a bold prediction.
Thanks.
I'd say bump it up to 2. I think he can get 2 in there. Bold predictions. I think my projected goes down over 25 points in the next 2 days. And then to couple that, I think we see over 25 49er Christian McCaffrey jerseys on the
broadcast.
On the broadcast. I think there's more than 25 shown. There's going to be a lot of people buying jerseys before the game.
That 23, baby.
We're gonna keep it Niners theme. We're bookending it.
We're all gushing over here. How happy we are.
No, I think with all the hype that everyone has with McCaffrey coming into the, just with all of it, that this ends up being the ultimate Jimmy Garoppolo revenge game. We're going to see a passing touchdown to George Kittle because there's not going to be a soft offensive pass interference call. Jimmy's going to hit guys in the hands on deep routes, just like he did last week, but they're going to catch it because instead of throwing to Ray McLeod and our 3rd string tight end, those passes are going to go to Ayuk and to Deebo Samuel. And I think that the Niners Chiefs game is going to be an absolute shootout, and the good guys, the home team, is going to walk away with a victory. And post game, the conversation, because I haven't heard any of the talking heads talk about how this is a Super Bowl rematch from just a couple of years ago. And then everyone's going to that will be the talk, is how good are the San Francisco 49ers? I'm going to speak it into existence. My girlfriend calls it manifesting. Niners 42, Chiefs 38.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you're going out with all right. He was like, wow, Nabil's was kind of bold. I guess I got to just blow it out of the water
pretty much. But I think McCaffrey's got us, like, he's going to get in there too. It's going to be fun. Like, if you have got a Chiefs or a Niners player in your fantasy lineup, like, you have to start them. It's like, I don't care who it is. Like, it's like, if they're fantasy relevant, like, you got to play them at this point. Like, it's going to be wild.
I think it's just going to be Shanahan's time to, like, all right, let me show you what I can draw up. Like,
yeah,
I've got ultimate flexibility. Like, we've lost some games that it shouldn't have even been close. Like, I feel like there's always some chatter of, like, is Shanahan this offensive genius? Like, I think the next few weeks he's just going to, like, show out and be like, look at what I can do now. And I have a mobile quarterback coming back next year. Like, I am a genius. This is why we made this move.
Yep.
We're the top in the West. I'm pumped. It's gonna be so fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm ready to be.
Ready to be hurt again.
I'm ready to be hurt. Last week was out the window. It's gone. We've got Christian McCaffrey. We're a way better team. Our Madden team rating went from a B+ to an A-. You know, like we're solid. It's gonna be great.
And great. Is this the best Niners running back since Frank Gore?
Yes.
Like, I think this is the first time, if the draft was today, the highest fantasy relevant Niners running back since like 2000 and.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think fantasy aside, right? Like, Christian McCaffrey is a top running back. The Niners have not had, like, other than like, oh, he was like this undrafted, late drafted running back who blew up the season before. Now he's really good.
Yeah.
Like this guy is a number one, or a first round running back, top talent that the Niners. And I'd even say he's like above Gore. Like this might be,
Yeah.
In my lifetime, this is the best running back we've had.
yeah, I would need to go into my early 90s books just to see, but
like this is better than Garrison Hurst. Right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Like this is the best running back on paper that the 49ers have had in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
what a wild time.
Please stay healthy.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, it's so
you want to just trade him now so he doesn't get hurt.
That's fine. He will not be on my roster come Sunday. I don't trust him one game in a Niners uniform.
Get rid of him quick.
All right.
That is all the time we had. James, any last words before we sign off?
Come get your guys. Fire sale today. I have time to look at my phone and look at fantasy. So I will send a group me message that today's the day. Come get your person.
That group me message will probably beat the posting of this podcast. Nabil, how about you? Any last words?
No, I think good luck. I think still a lot of people are in it. I know that you two might feel like you still can turn it around. It might not be as close as last year, but I think we have a good season ahead. Even though we have a couple Goliaths out there, I think we can all be Davids and take them out.
Yeah, man, it's the Splatty Bowl rematch from last year. I can't just lay down and die against Hunter. I gotta prove that I'm still competitive in this league. So thank you both. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll do it again soon. I'm not sure when, but we'll do it again soon.
Bye.
Later.